Hello and welcome to the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce 2014 Provincial Election Candidate Interviews. My name is Monica Dale. I currently serve as the first Vice President of your local Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin, I would like to take an opportunity to thank Shaw TV for producing this program and for the airtime that they are providing. In 2014, the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce celebrates 125 years serving the businesses and community of Sault Ste. Marie. As an agency that advocates for business at local, provincial, and federal levels, we feel it's important for businesses, employees, and citizens to hear from candidates about their stand on economic issues that impact us all. In keeping with election guidelines, all candidates will be posed the exact same set of questions. They will have 2 minutes to answer each question, along with 1 minute to start to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Monica. My name is Celia Ross, and I'm running to be the next MPP, New Democratic MPP for Sault Ste. Marie. You know, it's time for change. It's time to create jobs, and we want to introduce a new job creation tax credit. It's time to lower hydro rates, and we certainly have a plan to do that. 10 years of Liberal mismanagement, scandals, billions of money wasted. It's time for an accountable government. An NDP government will make life better for all of us. We will immediately lower automobile insurance rates. We will invest more in childcare, in senior care. We will freeze post-secondary tuition. It's time for a change. I'm proud to be running for the NDP, and I look forward to working hard over the next years for Sault Ste. Marie.
Citizens have determined that most of the political parties are all basically the same. They all believe that the government can effectively and morally regulate and interfere in people's personal lives and in the economy. The Libertarian Party believes that individuals should be able to make any decision they wish as long as it's non-violent. The Libertarian Party also believes that problems caused by big government cannot be solved by more big government. I am here today to offer you a distinct solution. I am here to offer you freedom and the Libertarian Party.
Well, I'm Rod Fremlin. I was born and raised on Calabogie Road in Echo Bay, and I stayed on the farm till I was around 16, 17, and I played hockey for the Sioux. Then I traveled the world. I went to Arabia, worked there in 81. Prior to that, I was in the Canadian Arctic for about 4.5 years. I came home and I got married in 80 to a local city girl, and we ended up moving, or I ended up wanting me to stay home, so I got a job at the city fire department, and I was there for 28 years. And I have a small construction business that I run on this right now, and that's pretty much me. The reason I wanted to be involved in politics is maybe I can make a change. That's the big one. That's pretty much me.
My name is Cara Flanagan. I lived and worked in our community for 26 years. I work in public health. I've been very fortunate to be able to, through my job, protect food and water and natural and man-made environments. And I've been a member of the Green Party of Ontario for many, many years, so I was very flattered when they called me and asked if I would represent the city of Sault Ste. Marie for the Green Party. I gave it a little bit of thought. Part of me said, oh, maybe there was no one else to ask. And then I remember the message that I got from William Shatner, say yes. So I'm excited to be involved in supporting our party and what I believe in for our community.
Thanks very much for having me here today. My name is David Orzetti. I'm a Liberal candidate in Sault Ste. Marie. I have represented the riding of Sault Ste. Marie since 2003, since being elected. We have made very significant investments in our community to help improve healthcare, education, and improve infrastructure here in Sault Ste. Marie. I am running again in this election because I believe we have a very positive plan for Sault Ste. Marie. We recently introduced our budget that has a number of benefits and programs that will help to strengthen our community, to improve healthcare, education, and provide important opportunities for young people. And I hope to elaborate on that throughout the questions. But I'm excited about this election campaign because of what it means for people in Sault Ste. Marie in terms of our platform and our budget.
The first question is from a Chamber of Commerce member. Over the past 20 years, government policy for electricity market in Ontario has changed greatly, and during that time, all three parties have had a hand in developing and implementing those policies. The net result is that Ontario has gone from one of the lowest priced jurisdictions in North America to one of the highest. Electricity is a huge input cost from all of the primary industries operating in Northern Ontario. Many of those industries are the foundation of cities and towns where they operate. The increasing cost of electricity has been one of the main causes of economic downturn in Northern Ontario. Please articulate how your party will fundamentally change each sector of this market. Example, generation, transmission, distribution, and conservation, to fix this problem should you form a government.
Absolutely, that's a good question. The Ontario Hydro was radically changed under the Conservatives, under the Harris government, when it was split into 9 different agencies. The NDP proposed to get 4 of those agencies, bring them back under one envelope. CEO salaries, just to give an example of how splitting up makes waste, CEO salaries are just tremendous. One CEO is earning well over $1 million a year. I think it's 1.6 million a year. So bringing 4 agencies back under one, you have one CEO, you eliminate a lot of duplication, you eliminate waste, you streamline operations. Another thing that's happening, of course, is that we haven't been investing regularly, the Liberals and the Conservatives, in upgrading infrastructure. So unfortunately, there's infrastructure upgrading to be done across the province. And this is very important for businesses. Businesses rely on reliable power. So we'll get the rates down with consolidation. We'll get the rates down also with how we sell electricity. Right now, we're selling electricity to the United States at half what it costs to produce it. So in other words, Ontario taxpayers are subsidizing Americans' electricity consumption. That makes no sense. And we're not taking advantage either of what other provinces have to offer. For instance, Quebec is selling electricity at very low rates. We should be making deals with Quebec to lower the rates of electricity that we buy. We also question the plans to refurbish nuclear reactors. It's going to cost $1 billion for each nuclear reactor per year over the next 15 years to refurbish. It's very, very expensive to refurbish nuclear power. Conservation, we very much agree with. We want to introduce measures so that homeowners can conserve. And also green energy. We need to remain innovative here, but we need to do so in ways that benefit municipalities, townships, and not necessarily export the profits out of Ontario.
The Libertarian Party would allow the the Libertarian government would allow greater opportunity for private companies to enter into the economy and would deregulate the economy more so that it allows businesses to create jobs and creates competition. The reason that prices are so high is because it is a government-enforced monopoly. And the reason Ontario is going further and further into debt is because the government continues to subsidize and interfere into the market and prevent further changes to the system.
I'm relatively new as a politician, so I'm going to have to tell you my thoughts only, and the truth that I believe is the truth. I'm here to fight for Sault Ste. Marie in any way I can for whatever reasons that they tell me to do. Energy is a large one. It's huge. I'd like to see a stop to all the windmills. I know our party is big on that. We have natural water sources here to give us all the power we need. I believe that we should actually, in essence, take care of our own people first before we let any electricity leave Ontario. It's important. Sault Ste. Marie, we have natural resources all around. I worked on the power dam when they built it. I've worked out of Montreal River. I know them. I see the amount of water we have. I think we should stay there. Forget the solar panels. Forget the wind generation stations, and just strictly get back to where it all began. It's cheaper. Will reduce costs for homes. Homes can take money. The homeowner will have more money in his pocket at the end of the month, and maybe my terminology is not incorrect to what people are saying, but I want to reduce it back to where people can afford to live here and companies can afford to operate here. And that's about that.
That's a great question, because energy is the power of us to move forward. And the Green Party has very strong feelings about energy. Certainly we are paying a lot for energy. And one of the ideas that the Green Party has is to divert the Darlington funds to refurbish the Darlington plants and buy energy from Quebec. It's a lot cheaper. So that is one aspect, is resourcing and diverting away from nuclear power. One of the best ideas that the Green Party has is conservation. This is overlooked at how powerful it actually is. Currently there's all kinds of little gimmicks and money, rebates and stuff that's provided on our energy bills, but we need to do better. And living in Sault Ste. Marie, Sault Ste. Marie, we should be so proud, has worked towards becoming the alternative energy capital of North America. So they've demonstrated that we can do better, and we must do better. So promoting sustainable energy sources and expanding conservation is very, very important to moving forward in the future.
So thanks for the question, and certainly a very important question locally here in our community. I think it's important to understand that when we came to government in 2003, we were having blackouts. The energy system in Ontario was failing us and needed significant investment and significant upgrade. We now have a system that is much more reliable and certain, which is obviously very important. People want to know that their lights are going to be staying on. And we've made huge investments in transmission and generation capacity in Ontario to help ensure that that is the case. Those are commitments that the other parties have not made. But I would say, with respect to local industry here, for example, SR Steel, Tenaris, and Flakeboard Limited, they are benefiting from the Northern Industrial Energy Rate program that we have put together here in Northern Ontario. The benefit is $41 million over 3 years right now. That's something that neither the NDP nor the Conservatives are prepared to commit to. That is in our platform. That level of investment to help reduce energy costs is helping to protect jobs here in our community, and that's something we're prepared to continue to make sure is the case. The energy system is much stronger than it was when we came to government, and obviously we have 3 important programs like the Clean Energy Benefit, where you get 10% off your electricity rates, a senior and property energy tax credit, as well as the Northern Industrial Energy Rate, or program, which is only available to individuals who live in Northern Ontario. So we have 3 energy programs to help reduce the cost of energy, and we also have a very strong program for industry that is helping our community.
The next question is from a Chamber of Commerce member. Many provincial jobs have been lost in Sault Ste. Marie in the past few years, and privatization of the OLG will result in hundreds of additional job losses. What will your party do to stabilize and possibly increase provincial jobs and opportunities here, with resultant positive effect on our economy and business community?
I do not believe that there will be a net loss of jobs from privatizing the OLG. Gambling has been a cornerstone of economy and people's lives for a very long time. And in the short term, the government jobs lost from privatization would not overtake the amount of jobs that would be created if private businesses were allowed to do as they wish and open up shop. Currently, there is government mandates that prevents people from creating jobs. This would remove those mandates.
Well, I know for a fact the OLG is not leaving. If we get elected, it's staying here. And that's very important for the city of Sault Ste. Marie. As far as the 100,000 job that I understand everybody's concerned about, I'm going to throw something in here if I can. It's through attrition. We're not going to walk in and start pointing to people and say, you're done, you're done, you're done. That's not going to happen. The OLG is going to stay here, and that's going to generate, again, between that, the energies we're going to save for homeowners. We're going to see the Sault thrive again. We'll get businesses into town. I mean, that's my goal. I'm going to go out and work as hard as I can for the Sault to bring people in here to work in the Sault, not give jobs away and move people out. That's it. We're gonna create jobs here, not send people elsewhere. We're not moving anything. If I have my say, or anything I can do about it.
Okay. Yes, jobs are a part of our platform. Jobs, our kids, and the environment. And the Green Party has a wonderful way of blending them all together. As far as jobs in our community, we want to help small businesses. Small businesses have been so important, and they have been so resilient and have provided jobs, good local jobs. And part of our platform is to increase the exemption for the employer health tax from $450,000 to $900,000 for small businesses with payroll under $5 million. And what this does is it allows for good local jobs and fostering and spurring on entrepreneurship and innovation. And the other advantage is it gives our children, our kids, the opportunity to stay and live and work here in Sault Ste. Marie, so they don't have to move away for work. Another really big idea about expanding jobs in our community is promoting grants for home energy conservation. It saves money, it saves energy, it increases our homes, our value of our homes and our comfort level. But in addition to that, the energy conservation grant program will create jobs in our community, good local jobs.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the question. I would certainly take issue with the premise that provincial jobs have been lost in Sault Ste. Marie. In fact, the opposite is true, that increased investment by our government has resulted in stronger provincial job numbers in Sault Ste. Marie. Take, for example, the Phase 2 Youth Detention Centre that was closed down by the former government under NDP representation. They put young people in a van at a cost of $500,000 a year, sent them to Sudbury. We invested $8 million, built the Donald Doucette building, and there are OPSU jobs there now in Sault Ste. Marie as a result of that. The ticket finishing plant that was OLG's, Babin Technologies, closed down here in Sault Ste. Marie under previous representation. We've brought that back here under Pollard Banknote, 70 jobs here now in the community as a result of that. I've been very, very clear about the position on OLG, and so has our Premier and our Finance Minister. A Liberal government put the OLG jobs here in Sault Ste. Marie, and a Liberal government will keep these jobs here in Sault Ste. Marie. We've continued to add positions in healthcare. We've hired over 20,000 nurses in the province of Ontario. Stands in stark contrast to what was done under the NDP, 3,000 nursing positions reduced, under the Conservative 6,000 nursing positions. So, you know, we've made these investments in education as well. When you look at full day JK, that's saving the average family $6,500 in daycare costs. And those are additional jobs in our school system. In fact, today, the Premier was in Sault Ste. Marie, and we talked a little bit about the investments we've made in education. And we changed the funding formula that was under the previous Conservative government. It's resulting in protecting 208 education sector jobs in Sault Ste. Marie, because we've now have, in the last 10 years, over 5,000 less students in the school system. So our investments have been very strong and have helped to protect public service jobs. Tim Hudak will take 1,349 public service jobs out of Sault Ste. Marie, and the NDP could facilitate that.
Well, you know, the NDP isn't always terribly favourable to privatisation. So it is true that the modernisation plans for the Ontario Lottery right now essentially mean that it will be privatised. RFPs are being prepared by, or were being prepared by, the Liberal government, and the buyers for the Lottery Corporation, there aren't very many firms that are big enough to actually run the Ontario Lottery. It would be an American company, most likely. And we know what will happen to the jobs. They may be protected for 1 year under the terms of an RFP, but they won't be protected in the long term. So we don't believe that it's necessary to privatize the Ontario Lottery Corporation. it can be run very well by the government with perhaps more openness to the private sector. You know, it's very, very interesting what the Sault Ste. Marie Innovation Centre is doing here in the Soo. They are working now with the Ontario Lottery Corporation to see if we can develop industries that will help the Lottery Corporation modernize. And examples of this in the Atlantic provinces, the Atlantic lotteries, in Moncton there's a 400-person company that's actually producing games that keeps the Atlantic lotteries modern and attractive. So we can do the same thing here in the Soo. I would work very, very hard to keep the Ontario Lottery Corporation as an Ontario-owned business, but at the same time open it up to the private sector for opportunities for private sector development to assist it in modernization.
The next question is from the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce. Ontario's corporate income tax, CIT, rate was scheduled to drop to 10% by 2012. In the face of a revenue shortfall, the government froze the rate at 11.5%. The Ontario Chamber of Commerce has noted that should the government decide not to follow through on scheduled CIT rate reductions, then at a minimum, the rate should remain the same. What is your stand on freezing or dropping the province's corporate income tax rate? And is your party willing to reinstate scheduled reductions to Ontario's CIT?
I would, again, I'm new, I would say yes, we're going to. It's a big platform to reduce taxes, to get businesses to work, back to work again, to get people back to work. So yeah, we're gonna reduce taxes. But it's gonna take a lot of work from a lot of different levels of society. Everybody's gonna have to pitch in and help. Like, it's not just the rich, the poor, it's going to be from everybody. We all have to give up a little to get this province back on track. We can look back at all the issues and point fingers and you know what? We got to look ahead. That's where you got to go. Looking back, pretty soon you're going the wrong direction. We got to look ahead and get this whole province straightened out financially. Then things will. I know where the people are going to say, "Oh, where the money's going to come from? How are we going to do this?" It's going to take a lot of work. I'm going to fight as much as I can to get whatever. I'm going to have issues, we're going to have issues with what's going on with the suit, but we're in the north, and some of our winters are harder than most. I just came back from down in southern Ontario, and honestly, it's nice to see it in my rearview mirror. I love coming back to the Soo, and I'm going to fight for the Soo. I don't really care what goes on in Toronto, what happens in London. It's here. I want to bring work. I want to bring money. I want to bring lower taxes. I want to reduce the power bills so that people here can start living a productive, happy lives again. Get people back smiling and being happy. And I know they're sick of this. They're just sick of it. And I can't promise something that I can't produce, but I'm going to work hard to get what I can. And that's it.
The Green Party doesn't want to pursue that corporate rate drop. We would reverse that, restoring the corporate tax rate to 12.5%. That 1% is important to supporting our small businesses in our communities, and that's where that money would go.
So that's a great question, and it's important that we're ensuring that business has a strong position to be able to compete. As we say, small business is the economic engine of Ontario, and certainly there are many small businesses in our community. We have made very significant changes to tax structure to help support businesses. In fact, we have one of the lowest corporate income tax rates in North America of any jurisdiction. In fact, the CIT rate reductions that we have put in place have saved businesses $2.3 billion since we've come to government. In fact, the elimination of the capital tax since we've come to government has also saved businesses $2.1 billion, and the harmonization of the HST, so businesses can now get back both their input costs at the provincial and federal levels, so to speak, has saved businesses $635 million. If you add on top of that business education tax reductions under our government, it's $200 million. So I know the NDP is proposing to increase business taxes. That's something we don't support because we do not want, during this sort of fragile period of recovery, the NDP driving businesses out of Ontario. We saw that previously when they were in government, and that's not something I can support. We've made very significant investments to help support businesses with equipment, technology, and other programs, and we've also, I think, found a very good balance with respect to business taxes that are making Ontario, according to the report that came out last week, the #1 jurisdiction for direct foreign investment in North America.
Well, you know, Monica, healthy businesses need healthy communities to work in, and they need a healthy province to work in. Businesses rely on provincially funded and maintained infrastructure. Hydro is one example. We need good generation, we need good transmission lines. Roads are another example. Rail, the seaway. We rely on an educated population and a healthy population, and all of that costs money. And that's where the taxes go to, the corporate taxes. So in a sense, corporate taxation is corporations investing in their own future, because those monies, wisely used by government, will make a much more attractive place for government, for businesses to do their work. We will raise the corporate tax rate by 1 percentage point. Ontario's corporate tax rate is amongst the lowest in North America. 1 percentage point is still under where it was when the Liberals first came to power. So 1 percentage tax raise, but we will not raise the tax for manufacturing, because manufacturing is really suffering and struggling to get back on its feet. So in other words, it'll be a considered tax raise that will only, that won't harm the businesses that are really struggling to keep going and struggling to improve their productivity and their bottom line. As well, small businesses, we will lower small business tax rate by 1%. So that is to recognize the struggles that a lot of our small businesses are having right now, struggles to maintain their employee numbers, struggles to pay their bills and keep their doors open. We want those small businesses there. For instance, in Sault Ste. Marie, what makes Queen Street such a dynamic place to be, it's what attracts people, tourists to our town, and we want to support those small businesses to retain the distinctive flavor that they give our city.
First of all, the Libertarian Party believes in honoring all previously negotiated contracts. We believe in honoring contracts. If people have to honor contracts, so too does the government. However, the Libertarian Party would wish to, oh man, I forgot the question here.
Ontario's corporate income tax.
Sorry, the Libertarian Party would universally would cut across the board. We don't believe in only cutting for one special interest group. Libertarians treat people as individuals. We believe in universal tax cuts and lowering of the tax rates.
The next question is from a Chamber of Commerce member. Earlier this year, the Ontario government announced that it would tie future minimum wage increases to the Consumer Price Index. Can you expand on whether you and your party supports this move, or whether they propose something different in respect to managing minimum wage increases?
The Green Party supports increasing the minimum wage and tying it to the cost of living. That's very important. Our workers everywhere, in every job, are important. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a job. So we would support that.
That's a good question, and obviously it's a topic of significant concern. I think one of the things that has been problematic historically on this is that it was frozen, for example, under the Conservative government for nearly a decade. And to catch up to rates that were more reflective of minimum wage rates across the country, there required several increases. I think what business wants is the stability to know, to be able to plan, to be able to budget. Is a government going to come to Queen's Park and increase the minimum wage significantly that makes it very difficult to make ends meet? Does that mean I'll be able to hire one less person in my business if the rate goes up significantly? Now, the NDP did not support our minimum wage increase to $11 and indexing it to inflation going forward, so that there's some understanding of how that would change, and it wouldn't change at the whim of a political party. I know they're committing to a $12 minimum wage. We don't think that's sustainable for business at this point, but we also believe, obviously, in a fair minimum wage and stability for businesses, and that's, I think, an important balance that we need to ensure is maintained.
Absolutely, I support tying minimum wage to price increases. What happens is we bump along 3, 4, 5 years, no minimum wage increase, and then all of a sudden, big gasp, because we've fallen so far behind and now it has a substantial increase to catch up. We do that actually in a lot of other sectors. We do that, for instance, with long-term care for seniors. We don't increase the amounts that are being transferred over to the long-term care homes, and all of a sudden then we start seeing a decrease in the amount of care that's available. We go, gasp, we've got to do something about it. So I believe that good government should look across different basic expenditures and should raise them bit by bit. Minimum wage is certainly one of them. If it were to go up a little bit every year, it would be much less traumatic for businesses. It would be much easier for businesses to plan. I also believe the same actually for when the government is transferring money to support different institutions, different businesses, different activities in our province. Those monies transferred should also probably go up little by little. And trouble with long-term freezes is you end up with a big panic when you realize that either the transfers are insufficient, or in the case of minimum wage, that people really aren't able to sustain their families in a decent way. Minimum wage can't fall way below poverty. And so the NDP advocate raising minimum wage by 50 cents a year until it reaches $12 and then pegging it at inflation.
The minimum wage harms the most vulnerable in society the most because it prevents people who are not saleable as job applicants from finding what most people would consider lower quality jobs. This affects the most the poorest of people, the homeless and drug users and drug addicts. And these people have to resort to crime because of government regulation and criminalization of their lifestyle. If they could get jobs, which are basically prevented by the system that's in place now, then they wouldn't have to resort to crime to get their fix. And I think that the minimum wage hurts the most vulnerable in society the most.
Well, minimum wage increases work really well as long as inflation doesn't go up higher than the minimum wage. Right now, the minimum wage went up, but so did inflation, so we're no better off now than we were 2 years ago. That's a catch-22. To raise one and then the other goes up, I mean, it's an awful balance. We have to find work for people, get people back to work. And again, I'm going back to the 40-hour week, where people are starting to pay back into society as opposed to the 30-hour weeks, where they don't have to pay any benefits. Everybody has to pay now. We have to pay our way. And if these big companies, or smaller ones too, I notice are doing it because they can't make ends meet, so they're not paying any benefits, so they contract everything out. We got to try and address that the best way we can to get people where they feel comfortable. We're coming to the Sault to get a job and working here. I'll go with SR is a big one, as far as I'm concerned. I know I may be in trouble for saying this, but they're one of the richest families in the world, and they're contracting everybody out. Before there used to be a future there. You'd get a job, but now you're on 3-month contracts for everybody. I want to change that. I don't know how I'm going to go about doing it, but I want to change that. I want to get people working here again, where they can go to work in the morning and come home at 5 o'clock with a paycheck in their pocket and pension fund maybe coming down the road in 20 to 30 years. It's important. I was fortunate. And if I can, that's my goal, is to get the Sault moving again. And that's it.
The next question is from the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce. The Ring of Fire is Ontario's 100-year mining opportunity. A recent report by the Ontario Chamber of Commerce finds that its development will bring Ontario tens of billions of dollars in economic activity over the first 30 years of operation. However, its development requires large infrastructure investments in order to ensure access to mine sites and reliable energy supplies. What is your party's stand on development of the Ring of Fire, and what would they commit to in its development?
That's a fantastic question. It's so vitally important that we develop this multi-generational economic resource. It's valued at $60 billion. And this is, this development is what the oil sands are to Alberta. Our government has stepped up. We've made a commitment in our budget and in our platform of $1 billion, not conditional on the federal government coming to the table, although the federal government is expected to come to the table, as they've done in other provinces in this country to help support natural resource development. No other party has made that commitment. They're talking about the importance of the Ring of Fire, but they don't actually commit anything in their platform, no real plan to help develop the Ring of Fire. And what we're saying is this is such an important resource. We want to develop it. We're putting the money toward it. We're putting forward a development corporation in terms of how this funding can be provided. And also we've reached an agreement with the Matawa Chiefs, First Nations in the area, which is helping to ensure that there's facilitation and the benefit of this resource is for people that most immediately live in the region, and also for all in Northern Ontario. I mean, this is a very, very exciting opportunity, and we're the only party that's actually put dollars on the table, committed to make this investment. You know, this is another example of a commitment like the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, where we increased the program from $60 million to $100 million. When the NDP was in office, they took the $60 million, cut the program, rolled it into general revenues, shortchanged Ontarians from benefiting from that. And we've seen so many great projects here in Sault Ste. Marie. We've funded 728 projects in the last 10 years in Sault Ste. Marie, supporting 2,500 jobs, and it's meant $87 million into our community. So just to expand a bit, but obviously on the Ring of Fire, very, very supportive.
I'm sure that most people watching are aware that the Ring of Fire is 500 kilometers from the nearest road. And on top of that, it's in muskeg. It's in very boggy ground. So to get transportation into the Ring of Fire is going to be quite a challenge. We have to decide first, is it going to be road or rail? Then we have to decide which way that road or rail will cut across and into the area. A lot of decisions to be taken. It needs planning. The NDP will start immediately planning for this and will immediately start dispersing monies as needed for good planning. Of course, we also have to consult with the communities. We have to have the people of the region buying into this. And that's also part of long-term planning, because as we develop that region, we want to develop the communities and the people that live in that region in ways that they want. For instance, we say that lots of jobs will be created in First Nations communities. Lots of jobs, that means training that needs to start now. So we need to start ramping up right now. The NDP will commit up to $1 billion and more if needed to start that development process. And we want to do it right. We want to do it in an environmentally sensible and sensitive manner. For instance, one of the big considerations, rail is less polluting and actually is less expensive to maintain than road. So we have to investigate all of these thoroughly. Once we have a plan, once we have buy-in, and once, of course, we have businesses involved, and I know there are a number of mining companies that are very excited about possibilities in this region. Once we're all working together, we will move forward resolutely, and the NDP will definitely support this and support the 550,000 jobs that will be created with this opportunity.
The Libertarian Party does not believe that the government should interfere in the market, subsidize corporations, or otherwise change fundamentals of the system, of the free market system, rather. The government should not invest money into unproven things and put the taxpayer on the line, because when these things fail, like the Liberals' gas plant plan, then the province is, and the province is the people, the province are left on the hook to pay the bills. What should be done is allow private owners and corporations to invest the money necessary and allow them to do what's necessary.
I know we're on board for it. I know that. How much can we commit? That's a good question. I know there's private investors big time in that, mostly American. I've talked to a few people who are involved in that. Well, we have big businesses locally who've invested, not necessarily in the Sioux, but in Ontario, are back in that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know we're not going to stop it. We'll help, but how can you promise to give money when we don't have any to give? That's my big one. Right now we're going $1 million in debt every hour, Ontario, and you think about that. That's scary. So we got to fix that first before we can start giving money away to all sorts of. We've got calls at the office now from all different factions asking those questions, and my answer is, I can't answer them because we have to get the debt problem solved first to see where we're going to go and what direction we're going to go. And the only way we can do that is everybody's got to help. We all got to give up something. And but the Ring of Fire is going to go. I know it's going to go. There's a lot of private money, and the government's definitely going to help with the infrastructure of roadways. And the Ontario and the PCs are on board for that part of it. Other than, I'm not sure about doing any more other than the road systems to get people there. Housing and all that, I think, is going to be probably more privatized, I'm thinking. I worked up in the Arctic for years, and that's what it was done. So I'm thinking that probably go back to that the people put some of their own money in as well.
Well, the Ring of Fire is very important for Northern Ontario, and we see this. However, it has to be done in a very sensitive way. This is pristine wilderness. We need to keep that in mind. We also need to ensure that we're respectful of the environment and our First Nations. And it's important to work with First Nation, make them partners, and make sure that we have their land claim settled before we do this. The Green Party also supports I believe they're proposing Ontario Northland Rail, and that's wonderful. We support that to get the product out. In addition to that, corporations need to pay their fair share for extracting all of our minerals. All these minerals belong to the citizens, and so we would support increasing the royalties that they would pay on that product.
Before we wrap up, the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce would like to thank Shaw TV for producing today's program. The Chamber of Commerce would also like to take an opportunity to thank each one of the candidates that we have heard from today for their choice to run in this provincial election. Each of them may carry a different party banner, however they all share a commitment to the people in the city of Sault Ste. Marie and a desire to serve them at a provincial level, and that is worthy of gratitude and recognition. This June 12th, please do your part and get out and vote. Best wishes for continued business success.